What is up, everybody? It's Reverse TV today, and we're about to witness the ultimate form of Sony fanboy damage control right here. Oh boy! Like, if you thought there was a Sony fanboy that was bad, we're getting like the ultimate levels of defending Sony at all costs here, because apparently first-party exclusives no longer matter now, according to Colin Moriarty. And I was like, I kind of think this is literally just like this opinion out there just to get engagement farming at this point, because this opinion is just so hypocritical. It is so blatantly hypocritical. Microsoft goes a year without exclusives for like 2022. Oh, Microsoft, they don't know what they're doing. They can't man the studios. Where are the games at? Where are the first party games at? Apparently Sony don't need first party games. They just need to have second party and third party games carry their company. And that's completely fine, apparently. This is just ridiculous, but this is an 8-minute long clip of these guys damage controlling Sony's crappy lack of first-party games, their trashy PS Plus games of the month, and just in general, them just having second-party games in general, which is just fascinating. Because once again, if it was Xbox, you would not get this leeway, you would not get this grace period, but because it's Sony, you can just coast by with second-party games. But let's play this clip of this guy damage controlling this PlayStation's lack of first-party games.
Colin, let's start with you. Who needs sorting out this week from you?
PlayStation,
I know there's a long list,
PlayStation
probably.
fans need sorting out this week.
Oh, shit. Let's hear it.
Hey, babies. I want you to listen carefully, okay?
Yes.
Because I can't take it anymore.
By babies, he means PlayStation fans who are angry with there not being any major first-party games. People who saw showcases and they were very disappointed at those showcases. You're babies, according to this guy, because you don't just consume what Sony produces. You don't question anything Sony produces, so you're just a baby, according to Colin Moriarty. Okay.
Where are the games? Where are the games? Oh.
I'm drowning in games, guys.
Do you like video games? Have you paid any attention to the games that have come to PlayStation 5 this year? Listen, I don't want to be disingenuous. I understand.
I don't want to be disingenuous. I will be very disingenuous with my following statements. I love the argument too, where it's like, do you even like video games here, people? I mean, there's plenty of games that came out this year. The same arguments the Xbox games were using when Sony fans would say, hey, there's no games on Xbox. And we know that meant that no first-party games were coming out, even though we still had plenty of third-party games. So it's just so hypocritical. Like, you're using the same arguments that Xbox gamers had when there were drought periods of first-party games on their system. Now you're using the same argument. It's just hypocritical.
And what a lot of people are saying when they say we want more first-party games. We all would like more first-party games. I want them to be of a high quality. I'd rather have fewer of them and much more high quality consistently, which I think Sony has achieved since maybe the middle of the PS4 era. But a mono focus on first-party content is really ignoring the forest for the trees. If you are involved with any non-Nintendo hardware for exclusives only, then you are in the wrong place. You should go buy a Switch and immerse yourself in the first-party content there.
So if you are looking at any of these showcases for the big three companies, you just shouldn't expect any first-party games. That's what he's saying. Unless it's Nintendo, which... Microsoft don't have that problem. They did at one point, but Microsoft is letting you know that you got plenty of first-party games on the way. Okay, he just can't say that it's a PlayStation problem. It's a big PlayStation issue. But, now it's just, he's making it like it's both Microsoft and PlayStation. Nope, it's just a PlayStation issue where there's no big first-party games coming out. It's just sad. It's just really sad.
That the hardware will live and die by. But the absolute reality of PlayStation and Xbox and PC is that the exclusives are nice, but they don't ultimately really matter if you like a wide breadth of games. And while we would like those exclusives to come at a greater cadence, even if the exclusives are what's important to you, why does it matter where the game comes from if it's good? Why does it matter if it's locked to a console if it's good or fun?
Okay, so we can now say that if a game just has only third-party games, no first-party games, then you should get that console, right? Because you're getting games, apparently. It's just so fascinating how we have gotten this far with PlayStation. This big turn from PlayStation where they can just not release any games, any first-party games, and it's okay now. As long as they have third-party games, second-party games, It's completely fine. Well, Microsoft got crucified for that type of that release strategy. They release no first party games, but PlayStation does it. It's completely fine. And why are you guys complaining about it? Hypocrisy.
Here are the games I've played this year on PlayStation 5. Prince of Persia: The Lost that have come out this year. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which I beat and platinumed. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which I
he's naming like one of the third party games. Who cares?
Crow Country, which I just platinumed, and we'll get to that later. You must not understand the idea that you can actually buy older things that you may have missed. You haven't played everything. PlayStation.
Now, play the older games that you built in the previous years, guys, because of Sony's lack of first party games. This is so laughable.
5's lack of games is completely divorced from reality, and it needs to be called out. If all you care about are exclusives, then here's what you have gotten so far this year: Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Helldivers 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Stellar Blade, and Rise of the Ronin, which I played briefly. It's not on my trophy list.
Games that all flopped except Helldivers 2, which did great, but 90% of that audience fell off. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is a remake of one of the most popular Final Fantasy games, which once again, Sony they need to be carried by Square Enix another year, like how they were before. So not a good look. It's like Sony's just being carried by different companies. I don't know if that's a good sign of a good future for Sony, them getting carried by third-party companies that they pay off to make them second-party content on PlayStation. That's not a good look right there. So if Xbox does the same thing and say, "Hey, Capcom, I want to send you some money to make your newest Resident Evil game exclusive to Xbox," are we going to be okay with that now? As that being exclusive first-party content now? Like, it's just getting sad. Like, this is just getting so pathetic. But they're just games, right? According to this guy, they're just games.
Mm-hmm. Can you name an era where more and better games came out on in PlayStation? I'd like to hear about that 6-month run in PlayStation's history where those kinds of games all came to the console exclusively, if that's what's important to you, which apparently it is.
And then once again, like I said before, most of these games flopped. Nobody's talking about most of these games that he's listing right here. They weren't big sellers. And Stellar Blade was supposed to be the most promising one because it got all that buzz on social media, but nobody bought that game. How many people on PlayStation PS5 bought that game? So it's like Rise of the Ronin, no one bought it. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, nobody bought that game. So it's like you'll have a history of games releasing, but you don't buy them. Okay.
Name the era. I've been with PlayStation since the beginning, so you can name it and I can recall it very quickly. This is amongst the strongest runs of games in the history of the console, actually. And the only reason people don't give a shit in some of the parts of the core is because it doesn't come from Sony Studios.
Right.
And I just think that I've said for many years now, and people know, it's like, I like my PlayStation first-party games a lot. Some of them are my favorite games of all time. But I'm not here just for PlayStation games. That can't possibly be true. There aren't enough of them. There weren't enough of them in the most voluminous era of, well, PS1, Sony was publishing everything, but they weren't really making very much of it. PS2, they weren't making very much of it, publishing a little bit. By the time you got to PS3 where there was parity and there were studios starting to make things, let's say 2011, 2012.
This video is so long. I'm trying to like fast forward it at least.
It's almost like you nothing pleases you and you just want to complain, and then you get mad at people like me when we don't complain because it doesn't reflect the honest feeling inside of us. I've been very busy.
Yeah.
And quite satisfied. So it's not in running defense for Sony.
I wish I would be hyped for the future of gaming, and I'm playing games from last year, or I'm playing these third-party games that Sony money had to make it a second party to make it exclusive, and I'm just saying, hey, this is a bright future for PlayStation. Really? This is just sad. This is just sad. Like, no, I don't want this to be a trend. Sony should be embarrassed about this nonsense. This is not what the gaming should be like in the future. I don't know what he's talking about, but no, we don't want that.
Because obviously they've greenlit games they shouldn't have, and things are behind, and they've probably PlayStation 5 is idiotic. And I read about it every day. And I just... what are you talking about? Thank you for letting me know.
Colin, I'm going to name some stuff that I have beaten, actually, this year that are only on PlayStation and not on PC either. Rebirth, the Rising Tides, the Final Fantasy DLC, which is first-party stuff right now.
Borderlands 3, which I bought back in 2019, so it's not for me. NHL 24, which is going to be replaced very soon in October by NHL 25, and then Among Us, which is a cheaper game. And people are like, "Oh, this list sucks," and I'm like, "For you, maybe." And I
Borderlands is a
understand.
big game.
Right. I was like,
for most people, it sucks. What are you talking about? Never defending nonsense. Garbage nonsense that you have to pay more for in that. Like what is this constant just damage control for Sony over their bad decision making? Like, this is some shilling nonsense right here.
It's a huge game.
I'm like, Borderlands is great. Among Us is a famous game. I know it's cheap, but they're giving it to you and trying to kind of grease the skids for the sequel or whatever the update that's coming out for it. And then NHL is a dude. 16 million people just watched the NHL Finals, Game 7 in the United States. So an enormous. That's more than anyone has watched any NBA final or NHL. It's just. This is a very strong year. I would argue that this year is, for me, and I wouldn't argue this overall because I know how people feel about the games last year. This is a stronger year than last year for me. I mean,
sure, yeah, I can see that.
A lot of things last year, like Baldur's Gate stuff, I'm like, I don't want to play this stuff. But I appreciate that people liked it. So
yeah, it's just more damage control. This is just ridiculous. Well, let's see what other people got to say about this nonsense right here. None of those are from first-party developers. That's what people are talking about, and you surely know that. So you mean it's pretty much just third-party exclusives? Are you sure the question isn't, where are PlayStation Studio exclusives? Those are extremely niche titles. I consider myself to be a core gamer and can barely keep up with current churned-out games, not to mention my growing list in the backlog. If you're only wanting for tentpole first-party games, then sure, you can feel a little disappointed, but saying PS5 has no games is disingenuous, to put it mildly. So once again, these people saying that, it's disingenuous to say PS5 has no games. Where were you when people were saying the same thing about Xbox? Are you just now coming out the rock that you were under before and just saying, hey, you can't say PS5 has no games, or you're being disingenuous? You guys were mighty quiet when Xbox had that same scrutiny of no games, alright? It's just fascinating how that works. Those are not PlayStation exclusives, though they are just scummy business practices. Yeah, because they have such a dry list of games. They pay these companies more to make these games be exclusive to PlayStation, just to keep them off Xbox when they have no games of their own to release on their platform. Which I don't know how that gives you faith in a bright future for Sony when they have no first-party games. And I think their next first party game is going to be Concord, which is going to be dead on arrival. Their launch into live service games that people clowned repeatedly. Concord looks like it's going to flop on arrival, so not a good look for their future of games right there, to be honest. Yes, and almost all those games are pretty meh overall. I just finished Rise of the Ronin. At least he finished it. Most of these Sony guys, they didn't play Rise of the Ronin. Where are the PlayStation first-party games? I'm guessing throwing money at studios to money-hat content is cool now that Sony is doing it. I didn't buy my PS5 for money-hatted games. I bought it for first-party exclusive games made by PlayStation Studios. That's what I want, and many others want the damn same. Simple as that. No Game Station 5. Sounds like Xbox fans last generation. It really does, bro. It's just history repeating, but it's from the different side who's making excuses now. They were saying Phil Spencer needs to quit. He needs to get fired. Xbox doesn't know what they're doing, but Sony's in the same predicament. And now it's completely fine because they pay off a studio to make their games exclusive to PlayStation. So they're pretty much just a third-party machine. Got it. You know exactly what they mean, LOL. Mid-games, your tone has changed. Before it was about first-party experiences. I guess that don't count. That don't matter anymore, We go with the flow over there with PlayStation. It's like whatever PlayStation's feed you, you got to go with that narrative. If they don't have any first-party games, you got to say first-party games don't matter. That's just how they roll over there. Nobody bought a PS5 for Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. Yeah, I haven't heard nobody talk about this Grand Blue game whatsoever, so it's fascinating. He's just putting this like in a list of games people actually care about. Grand Blue Fantasy is not even exclusive though. Blows my mind when I see this. It's from Xbox fanboys too. Like, we've got way more to play than y'all. You're playing third-party games. They're not considered third-party because Sony paid for exclusivity. Big whoop-de freaking do. I don't know if that's something to be proud of. Notice how he's complaining about PS5 jokes on a podcast instead of playing said PS5 games. If PS5 has so many exclusives, then why does it feel like PS5 has no exclusives? Oh, man. Colin, we want the first-party studios to release games, or at the very least announce them. Would be nice. What you've listed are 4 JRPGs and allow service multiplayer. Not everyone wants to play those kinds of games. Where is the variety? Does the woman have any opinions? Yeah, she didn't really say anything in that entire segment right there. She probably couldn't. I mean, that's a good thing. Like, you won't order a shoe for PlayStation 2 like this guy's doing? Like, that would have been just as cringy. It's probably best she didn't really say anything in that segment, because that would have been cringy. Also, Colin. What is this?
Cares if a game's exclusive or not. I don't know why people are so obsessed with this. I don't really care who makes. I don't understand what this obsession is where the game only matters if it comes from first or second party.
This is a parental guidance moment. Hey, that child can be moved out. So,
perspective, say anything at this point. I don't understand what's going on over there from a first party perspective. Say something.
I never just did things just to do them. Come on, I mean, what am I going to do? Just, am I feeling...
Or second party.
I don't like when they put the clips, but I'm assuming it was a clip of when he was talking about Xbox, how he's very hypocritical. Xbox needs to say something about their first-party games. But, you know, PlayStation, you don't need to say anything about your first-party games. Because you're PlayStation, right? Oh, man, what is this?
I don't think Microsoft deserves credit for a lot of that. Psychonauts 2, not your game. You know, Deathloop, not your game.
Really?
This year, Ghostwire Tokyo, not your game. Fallout or Starfield, not your game. And we're going to talk about those later, so I feel like the proof is still going to have to be in the pudding as far as can they deliver. Because their big marquee game, Halo, no. Definitely not. Definitely not.
Bro, just that blatant hypocrisy. See, my memory isn't the greatest about this guy, but about these moments he makes, these podcast segments he makes. But you know, the internet lasts forever, so there are people out there who remember what he stated and then post receipts of this guy being a complete hypocrite. Apparently, first party for Microsoft matters greatly, but PlayStation first party, you don't need to worry about them. Complete hypocrisy, and like he says, everybody knows it. You won't give Sony all the credit for games they don't own, but neglect Xbox the quality they actually own just because it was acquired somewhere else down the road? Hypocrisy. Didn't have this energy for Xbox in 2022. Now his games are games. Stop focusing on first party. Yeah, just ridiculous. This video is getting kind of long, but I'm pretty sure people are just roasting this kind of comment section. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, the hypocrisy is just like... People want to say there's like no media bias. There's no Xbox tax. This seems like a pretty big Xbox tax right here, media bias. But okay. But I'm going to include it right here. I don't want this to be way too long. But yeah, this guy's a hypocrite. It's blatant at this point in time. But definitely want to see your thoughts down below about this. Leave a like if you like this video. And as always, thanks for watching and peace.